Oh, welcome to the Zulu cast. I am your host, Alan, and today I am joined by my co host, Shane,
You're
Max,
Greetings.
and a fresh addition to the panel, Big Lance.
Yo,
Big
Yes,
Lance.
sir. Big Lance. And today we are talking about ENFPs. Now we're gonna
Yes.
go through a whole little section where we're like, what are ENFPs? And we tell you exactly what they are. But if you're here, you probably already know that. So before we get to that point, let's just ask the question. How do we feel about ENFPs?
They
Let
suck.
all the non-ENFPs speak first. Max, how do you feel about ENFPs?
I enjoy being around ENFPs. I think that they're
What?
fun to be around, but I think that morally they're very questionable people. Like sometimes
Whoa!
in
Why do
my
you say
experience,
that?
they take hedonism to another level. I feel like than an INFP does, and they we've talked about this, and we'll get into this a little more later. But they,
Wait
they
a
kind of
minute. Are you saying INFPs are superior to ENFPs? Is this
no,
already a
no, no,
controversial
no, no,
claim?
no, 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 no.
A very early controversial
No,
take
because
from
I
Max,
think that
everybody.
ENFPs have their strengths, but
What are ENFPs better than INFPs at?
I think the extroversion's cool. Like I kind of wish I had that factor about me, but I mean, like I said, I feel like they have their strengths and their weaknesses. But
Anyways, Lance, how do you feel about them?
I feel like they get too caught up on one thing, so not very enjoyable for me.
They get too caught
Like
up
Matt,
on
yeah,
one
no, no,
thing.
like Max said, it's the morals are kind of questionable,
yeah,
consistently, for some
And
reason.
lacking in moral system.
they're very questionable. I think I have a list of all 16 of the types ranked from like least to most favorite, and I think ENFPs were like number 11. So I like some sensors better than them. And I would say the same thing. I would say that ENFPs feel childlike in a bad way. Like it's not childlike, like it's an enjoyable, youthful vibrance that they have to them that makes you feel more at touch with a playfulness. It's more so like they're childlike in the fact that there's not a lot of real sentiment in the things that they do. And I say this because I notice inconsistency in them. Like they'll say like, okay, now I'm doing this thing, now I'm this person, and as soon as they don't feel the rush of energy going in the direction of that thing, they don't do that thing anymore. And they only work when there's some like push to work. They only create when there's some like push to create. So it feels like they lack the ability to serve something. And that lacking of an ability to serve a principle makes their playfulness feel kind of gross at times, honestly. Like it's like, is there any real sentiment within you? Now there's a variation of reasons as to why they're inconsistent. Part of it is the immaturity. Part of it is the fact that they're so emotional. Part of it is the fact that they're always finding new ideas and they're stimulated by new things. Some of it is that it's hard for them to create a system. But and I'm not saying like my dislike towards them is indicative of an objective statement on who they are, but my dislike is brought out by my own annoyance I have of them being so inconsistent in everything that they make themselves look passionate about questionable to me because it's like how are you passionate about anything that you won't extend all of yourself into that thing for a long duration of time, but you tell me you're passionate about something. It feels more like they're passionate about the narrative of things. In other words, they lack substance is what I notice. So that's my sentiment on the NFPs. Like they're cool, they're funny. On a personable level, I don't find it enjoyable to get really close to them. But Shane, how do you feel being an ENFP? What's it like?
it has its pros and cons, you know. I definitely think it's really weird when we talk about like passion. I was hearing passions can do so much and mean so much in uh I think passions are things that we see that people like chase with consistency. But I think there's a lot of things that I'm passionate about and care for as an ENFP that I probably don't do, even on little levels. Like I remember hearing about my friend the other day who's an ENFP, and this is not to be permissive of these actions. It's just to say this is how I feel like a lot of our minds work. Is her friend was mad at her for not texting them, and he was like, "It's not that hard. If you miss me, just text me." And then she was like, "Well, in my mind, I know I miss you, but I just like there's a part of me that just doesn't tell me to do it. But it's a real feeling. Like it's a real feeling of miss. It's just not followed with any action." And so, yeah, in that aspect of things, it's very difficult and challenging to be an ENFP because we're very permissive of not acting on these real states. We just vibe in these states. However, uh I've come to appreciate the realness of how these states feel compared to other types. Um I think not that being a state junkie is really good, but to better understand that there are certain things about them that are a blessing more than a curse uh is good in my
So
mind.
you recognize that ENFPs have a problem with over identifying with these states, but at the same time you identify a strength in the fact that ENFPs can be so present to these states.
Yeah, I think you and me had spoke about it before, where he's like, if ENFPs could just manage state control, they'd be in a much better place. It's just that they move in and out of them so frequently that and they don't control them. They just wait for the next one. It doesn't feel very driven to it. But these states, sitting in the states, isn't the bad part. It's really more just what they do with the states. Um, and so yeah, no, I think that's a pro and a gift as a person who can like feel. I almost like kind of want to refer to how like ISFPs feel in situations where it's like this is so real to them. And I think to a lot of people, whether it just be a dopamine release or just a true emotional connection, sometimes a lot of ENFPs have that relationship as well with their mind.
Yeah. As an ENTP, I recognize that INFPs can be annoying, just like ENFPs, because they have a lot of tropes about them that they take a detached viewpoint to. And I think a lot of the things like a lot of the annoying things that INFPs do, I think are solvable, and that makes them more annoying. But one thing about INFPs that I recognize is that they feel a lot more real than ENFPs. And when ENFPs convey themselves, it often comes with this feeling that the thing that they're saying is put upon and that they're being strategic about how they're communicating. Now, do you think that this is just me overvaluing INFPs and putting a halo effect there? Or do you think that you also identify that ENFPs sometimes communicate in a put upon way?
I think they can communicate in a put upon way, not as I think we all kind of do this if we still have this really high value of INFPs. I don't know why we do. I mean, I guess I do. Um, but I don't think ENFPs are incapable of it. They just don't, I guess, quote unquote, do it as often. They're just not. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of that lack of driven. Like they rather exist in the state than explain the state. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we already spoke on some ENFP tropes, and I wanted to do that after we go through an educational section. So let's get the educational section out of the way. What is an ENFP? An ENFP is a personality type that stands for extroverted, intuitive feeling, and perceiving. The ENFP function stack is extroverted intuition, introverted feeling, extroverted thinking, and introverted sensing. And I'll break down um, what those functions are. Their first function, the primary function that they use in the world, is called extroverted intuition. And this is a function that is concerned with seeking out new possibilities, always asking what else. Their second function, their secondary function in the world, is introverted feeling. And this is a function that identifies one's own individual sentiments, values, and beliefs towards things. Their third function is extroverted thinking. And extroverted thinking is a judging function that focuses on empirical data to produce a result. And that produce a result aspect is really important to understanding how this function manifests itself. Because NTPs, me and Lance is an INTP, I'm an ENTP, we have introverted thinking. So introverted thinking is a logical function that's concerned with finding what's true. Extroverted thinking isn't about what's finding what's true, but it's about what works. So when you're using extroverted thinking, you're not necessarily thinking about something from the sense of the thing itself. You're thinking about things from their functional use, which is why extroverted thinking is a conscientious function, where introverted thinking is a perceiving function. And then their last function is introverted sensing. And introverted sensing is a function that recalls on past memories to help you prioritize what is important for you to do. And this is the last function in the primary function stack for ENFPs. And this being their last function is one of the main drivers as to why ENFPs are so inconsistent. ENFPs will have NE flashing through them saying, here's a new idea, here's this new thing I feel like I resonate with, here's this thing I find interesting, wow, I'm so caught up in the energy of this thing. And then they have a very Latin voice that tells them, like, hey, you just told yourself that you're a musician and you're operating in the world through this narrative that you're a musician, you should go make music. But that function is dimmed down by their other functions. It's one of their like less developed functions as ENFPs. And that being one of their Latin functions is why they have trouble being conscientious. As an ENTP, we also have trouble being conscientious. And the only way that I know that we can somewhat get a grip on introverted sensing being so low in our function stack is by creating systems that make it easier for us to work, or make work feel like less heavy of a task. And for ENFPs, I feel like the systematic approach could help, but I feel like it would be a lot of emotional regulation in order for you to get yourself to be able to do conscientious things. But Shane, do you feel that this function stack sits with you as an ENFP? Do you feel this accurately depicts the way that you view the world?
Yeah, I think to some extent, I think that last part, the very big problem of it all, is probably the part I resonate with the most, and I think I see so deeply. Um, but that's just simply because it's been brought to my attention. But for the majority of ENFPs I interact with, yeah, I think it's a pretty accurate, you know, light scaling of how their mind would operate.
Yes, sir. And the last thing that we'll do for a little educational part is I'll go through the strengths and weaknesses of ENFPs, and I want the peanut gallery, Max and Lance, as outside viewers of ENFPs, non-biased people. Tell me if you deem these to be true descriptions of ENFPs.
I
Starting with the strengths of ENFPs, would you guys say that ENFPs are curious?
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, would you guys say that ENFPs are enthusiastic?
At
No.
times.
You would say no, Lance.
Yeah.
Why do you guys say no, Max? Why do you say at times?
If it's about like some like hedonistic shit, then yeah, but or if it's something that they're like hyperfixated on, yeah. But other than, I mean, I don't know. Or at the other times, like they're not really super enthusiastic. I don't know. So it's just like, yeah, at times.
Lance?
I mean, I would say the same. It would have to be a rare occasion, like if they're hyper focused on somebody, like he said, or something.
Yeah. So do you notice, Lance, that they have a problem keeping a certain energy like consistent? Like all of their enthusiasm tends to wane quickly?
I mean, I haven't personally noticed that myself.
Yeah.
But nah, nothing like that. I don't know.
Okay. Would you guys say ENFPs are excellent communicators?
Mm,
Yeah,
no.
I would.
Lance, you would say they are?
Yeah.
I really
This-
feel like that
Yeah.
Just in my
Actually,
experience.
wait.
too.
No, they're good at like, yeah. No, I would agree with
No,
Lance on that
I
more.
think I would say I think it more depends who you're talking to. I think they have a hard time communicating, I think, with like INTPs and especially with sensors like in general. I just think like those people struggle to better understand ENFPs. Um,
Mm.
but maybe that's just me because I feel like it's so feeling induced, and that's why like we see it precede so much levels of hedonism and stuff. Is a lot of it just based on how you're feeling in the moment, and a lot of I think INTPs, rationalize their feelings, while a lot of ENTPs just sit in their feelings.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
let's communicate that point because we have an INTP and ENFP here. I see this as a common setup for miscommunication and misunderstanding. INTPs basically like ENFP will tell an INTP you're logicizing the situation too much, and the situation is not as cold as you're making it out to be. And an INTP tends to think that an ENFP is stuck in their own ways, and they're I don't want to say like over complicating things because INTPs can tell you, like INTPs tend to be able to tell an ENFP what their sentiment is. And INTP just, I think that INFPs notice what they would say is like a childish attachment to certain positions within ENFPs. So you two, do you guys also? I mean, I guess Shane, you're already saying you do. Lance, do you notice a problem in the communication of ENFPs and INTPs? Is it hard to reach shared sentiments between those two types?
I mean, for me to personally communicate with them, yes, but I don't think like they have the issue themselves. I think it's just like um a sigma with just INTPs.
Why is it
And
hard for you to communicate with them?
like you just said, it's just the super logical stance is not gonna stand with them, and
Yeah,
it
so you
pisses
think
them
you're
off.
doomed. You think you're doomed before you even try. So it's like no point in even saying it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's annoying.
And Shane, what's your perspective on that dynamic?
I don't know if I'd say it's doomed from the start. I think as ENFPs, and this is probably more going to be personal for me because I think the better they get at trying to understand how they feel, uh, the more they try to break it down. Uh, to I think the better people get at giving things that are comprehensible in any context, whether it just be how they feel or just what they think and stuff like that. I just think it's easier to, but I think for an ENFP who is struggling to make progress in that idea of any sense of like self awareness and self actualization, yeah, it's almost a pointless. I said the other day, I think one person's just gonna like rationalize the situation, and the other person's just gonna be like, "I feel like you're invalidating my feelings," and it's just gonna go like that. So
Yeah. So it sounds like both types are unwilling to look outside of themselves, you would say, Shane.
just yeah, to some extent, yeah. I think they both are able to. I just don't know if those are the first conclusions I think they're coming to.
Yeah. Y'all gotta tell me what this next word means because I've heard it and I don't know what it means. Are ENFPs festive and what even is festive?
I don't know what that like in what context. Like what?
What is
Well,
festive? What does that shit
like
mean? I'm looking up the definition.
Does
I
it mean
hear
like
festive, and I'm about to look it
celebratory?
up too. That's what I would think. Yeah,
Um,
If that's the
cheerful, joyful, jovial, and celebratory. Yeah.
yeah, then
I mean, yeah, if they're hedonistic to some extent.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I feel like that's a nice way of saying that. Yeah. Okay, let's just move to the next string. Are ENFPs good-natured?
Mm,
Yes, I think you
Dang,
struck that.
You weren't supposed.
Oh,
I
I'm
was
not supposed
saving
to
you
answer.
for
I'm
the end.
sorry.
I want to get the. I want to
I'm
get the
sorry. I'll
outside
hold on. I'll
perspective.
hold on. Yeah, hold on.
good natured. They can be, yeah, but are they always? No, because like I said, their moral system is kind of shaky sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you've noticed this, Max. I want to say they're good-natured because they'll like literally be
There's
passionate
glimpses,
about
yeah.
they'll be passionate about this cause and it'll upset them when other people go against this cause. At the same time, every single ENFP I know I've seen them drop their own principles in moments of hedonism. I've seen them do it. Where like they tell other people like you should be ashamed for doing blah blah blah. And then in their own personal life they're like stealing, lying to people. And not only that, but they're aware that they're doing it, and they'll joke to people that are close to them about this. Like, I've noticed this shit. I don't know if you've noticed that shit too, Max. But yeah, it's really hard because it's like they do concern themselves with activists, but at the same time, they're the first ones to like
To like,
rationalize their own
yeah,
behaviors.
for sure.
Yeah, it's annoying too because it's like they're so morally indignant. But what I've noticed is that if ENFPs do an immoral thing and you confront them, instead of their focus being on rather or not the thing they're like, is the thing I'm doing immoral or not, their first response will be to defend themselves. Like
Yeah, and rationalize.
it'll be like to attack you in some way. Like it's not so like you're questioning their moral compass. It's like you're competing with them to see who's gonna win this war of words. I know
Yeah,
ENTPs have this problem too, but ENFPs have it in a different way, and it's yeah, it makes it like that's another reason why with like ENFPs, like a lot of ENFPs will be like, oh well, you're saying I'm doing this wrong thing. Tell me what I'm doing, and I'm like, I don't even want to tell you because there's this big block in the way of you being able to let the thing land. So like why even it's a waste of time. I look at ENFPs very much as like they're doing their own thing and I'm not even going to touch that. Like I don't even want to get caught in that web.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Lance, do you think they're good-natured?
I do just because I have a couple ENFP friends that I just are still good natured to me. So yeah, I don't have a reason to believe they aren't. I can see when they can't be, but it's not like every time. So I guess yeah, they can
Got
be.
you. Got you. Okay, we'll talk about the weaknesses, but first, Shane, I was holding you out for the end. Do you think that those list of strengths are accurate for an ENFP?
Yes. Yeah. I think they're they're very nicely worded strengths. I see a lot of the highs and lows in these wordings and stuff. Um but yeah, I think all of them are spot on. I just think they're worded very yeah.
Okay. Let's get to the weaknesses. Peanut Gallery, Lance and Max. Are ENFPs people pleasers?
Yes, 1,000,000,000%.
Yeah, they
Okay.
love help. They love helping out and shit.
Are ENFPs unfocused?
Yeah, that's for that like the P part of the personality comes in. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
Are ENFPs disorganized?
Uh,
Um,
I haven't seen any examples of that. Well, yeah,
I'm
actually,
trying to
yes,
think with
yes.
my experience with the
I don't even want
ENFPs.
to say who, but yeah.
Yeah, but I also think like in comparison to
Special.
INFPs, I feel like INFPs can kind of be more disorganized than like ENFPs.
Oh, why you say that?
I don't know, just knowing myself and then knowing ENFP people, I feel like sometimes at times I'm more disorganized. And like other INFPs I see can be more disorganized. I don't know though, cuz I guess it really just depends on the person actually.
Okay. Are ENFPs overly accommodating?
I mean, I feel like that kind of goes in with the people pleaser thing if you apply it to that context. So at times,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I feel like if an ENFP can be like not over accommodate. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, that coincides with the other one. That's not even. Are ENFPs overly optimistic?
Um,
No, I wouldn't say.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
why? Why is there a
Well,
difference in opinion?
I can see like multiple examples, but I don't even want to get into all of them.
I feel like an ENFJ would be more like that, not so much an ENFP. Because I feel like you see with especially like a lot of ENFP like activists, there's like a overall like pessimism coming from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we definitely have to hit out the activism of
So
ENFPs. Yeah. All right. Last one, and I'll read like the little paragraph they have next to this for context. Restless, ENFPs are restless, and it says with their positive, upbeat attitude, ENFPs rarely seem upset or dissatisfied on the outside, but
Yeah,
their inner idealism can leave them with a nagging feeling that some major areas of their life just aren't good enough, whether that's their work, their home life, or their relationships. Do we agree?
I think that like accurately like explains every one of my ENFP homies.
Exactly.
It's like on the outside
I'll say
they're
the same.
presenting as like super positive, but I think like they have like this inner dialogue that might not really coincide with their how
The
they're
hidden
presenting.
side.
So
Yeah, they're very concerned with their self-image, and we'll talk about that as the first, like ENFP trope that we have a little discussion on. But Shane, those weaknesses accurately represent you.
I think to some extent, yeah, I would disagree with Max on the disorganized one. I think ENFPs are way more disorganized than ENFPs, and I think a lot of that's just because, uh, although both have to feel congruent, I think it's just more plausible to see an INFP feel more congruent to organize themselves, than an ENFP personally. But yeah, no, I think all those are pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So look, Lance and Max both commented on something that we all notice in ENFPs. They say yes, they make themselves look like they're presented, but they're really, and it's like we all notice this trend of ENFPs being very obsessed with self-image. So you ask an ENFP, "Who are you?" And often the thing that they'll tell you as an answer isn't a description of things that they personally identify with, values that they've tracked down, and they say, "This is me across time," or ways that they see the world in a root level, and they say, "This is me across time." You'll get answers like, "I like this kind of music," or "I like this kind of certain wave of activism that's flourishing right now." And the reason that this is, that the reason ENFPs identify them, ENFPs see things, they consume and they see cultural things, and they're like, "I'm that thing." That's what they say their self-image is. The reason is they sit, they look at what's in front of them, and they're like, "Do I like that? Yes. Okay, that's me. Do I like this? No. Okay, that's not me." So it's like, say like fucking some random shit like being emo. And ENFP will be like, "Oh, I like this culture. This is me." Da, da, da. So they'll like mold their personality around things that are cultural and reverse engineer that. So I feel as if an ENFP's always thinking like, what is the concept of me that I'm trying to present, and then they're acting out in the world.
I
Because
noticed.
that's the, uh,
Oh, I was gonna say I noticed that a lot with my ex. That was an ENFP.
yeah,
She's like very hyper focused on her self image.
I was gonna ask you about her because I want to talk about dating ENFPs. So I feel like we all have,
Yeah.
but the reason the ENFPs are like this is because their extroverted intuition is like, okay, this is the possibility I resonate with right now. And their introverted feeling is like, okay, I feel this mask. I feel this self-image. I feel this thing that I've seen outside in public. And then they communicate as so. And if you can identify it, it seems obvious to you. Because what I notice is like for ENFPs that are like this, if you talk to them about things that don't coincide with something that they've decided to be aligned with their self-image, they can't even pay attention to it, or they don't even have an answer for it. And that's the way that, first of all, let's just talk about like how we realize this to be true. Then we'll talk about the phenomena itself. That's how I realized it to be true. Lance and Max, how did you realize that ENFPs are addicted to their self-image?
I guess my true experience that with that is my ex that was an ENFP. Like she was so hyper focused on her self image and like exactly what you're explaining. How they like search for things to attach themselves to, and then they like that's how they present themselves as. Like that's their whole identity. That's very much explains her. So I guess that's how I kind of discovered that. But at the same time, I think she represents like a very unhealthy ENFP. I don't know if she's like very representative of like ENFPs as a whole, but
Mm.
she's definitely like one of the more unhealthy ENFPs that I've met.
I
Okay.
think
How did you see it, Lance?
I've just consistently seen them like talk about what they about to have going on. Uh, like it's always about their optimistic viewpoint on the future. I said they weren't optimistic earlier, but like yeah, about their viewpoint and how they want you to see them, they definitely are.
Yeah, they're always like, I'm going to do this thing. I have this new good
And
thing
it's
coming
always
down.
something big. It's always something big, not like little things.
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes with that, it's like a relationship or like whatever.
Yeah, and it's funny too because it's like it's this grandiose concept that something's just gonna fall upon them, and that's resonance. I've seen this resonant in their own like self-image, like just having this grandiose concept of self-image and having this grandiose concept of future achievements, like this new great thing is going to happen. But it's also this grand they have a grandiose concept of energy, like because they work in bursts and they so often don't set forth, like they don't ever just say I'm just doing this, and I'll go like fuck the like decision and the mental conversation about whether or not I'm doing this. I'm just doing this because I know it's the right thing to do. Because they don't do that, they operate on this grandiose idea that one day this consistent wave of energy is just going to land upon them, and through that wave of energy they're going to be able to work every single day, and it's not going to feel like work. And them having this superstition is the same reason that they say shit like, well, don't even do things if you're not passionate about it. Or they say, I'm not feeling passionate about music right now, so I'm just gonna go like not make a song for a year, and then like the it's because they're just waiting for this thing that's never going to happen. And this thing that's never going to happen is this just never ending energy. Like they're always saying, I don't have the energy to do this thing. I don't have the motivation to do this thing. And at the same time, they have a grandiose idea of massive achievement. So I think they work under this like fairy tale that someday some never ending wave of energy is going to land upon them. So yeah, they have that grandiose output on the future and this concept of like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and like all of this shit. Um, so that's they just grandiose, very ran by self-image. Shane, as
Mhm.
an ENFP, talk about the self-image complex.
I think I don't know if I can speak for ENFPs as a whole, but as a person who's definitely done it, and a person who's trying to move away from it, who still does it though. Um, I think a lot of a lot of the states that communities and brands put me in, uh, are 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 things I resonate with, and because I enjoy these states, they're just super easy to. This did this to me, so I can identify with this, and you run with it, and you almost build this idea of the things that make up you, like who you are is something that is made up of factors instead of I don't want to say mind or like it's really weird, but I think I do it a lot myself as a Christian who's a person like I identify as a Christian and I fall short of that so often and so much, but I know every time I meet somebody new, I'm always focused so hard on my self image on the person that I would like them to see me as, versus actually putting effort into being really that person. Um, and I think that's just I don't know why we do that. It's just weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's really stupid, but it's it's just a wave of affirmation and state of resonance that like we just prefer. And I don't know why. It just like I said, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but we do it. So
Okay. I'm gonna use these conversations to transition in the little like points of importance I have here. I want to talk
Mhm.
about NFP spirituality because the reason, like what you just said, is culture and communities make me feel emotions and states that I resonate with. Like I do feel an identification with those states, and through culture and communities, I find those states. Saying that comes with this presumption of not putting yourself into that state. And this is common across all of ENFPs, this lacking of self initiative, this lacking of stepping outside of reaction and saying, I'm going to permeate this state. And I think I see this in the way ENFPs even view spirituality. Because always wonder like how the hell could somebody who deemed themselves spiritual be depressed? And I know a lot of self-professing spiritual ENFPs that are depressed, and their type of spirituality always has something to do with this lack of control. This sense of helplessness is in their spirituality, where they say like the world is so beautiful and all this is happening to me and the universe is like this. And if we want to talk about like a throwback to last episode, they believe in like astrology, which is just like it just has this philosophy of like all these things are happening to you and you're at a lack of cause in all these things. And ENFPs have a strong self-concept and at the very same time a lacking sense of self, and it's very visible in their spirituality. And I wonder what is it about ENFPs that makes their own footprint not stimulating to them? Is it, Shane, would you say it's a lack of self-esteem? Would you say it's a degree of narcissism? Why do you think that is?
Say that last part again. You cut out.
Do you think it's a cause of lacking self-esteem, narcissism, or any other like solution? Why exactly do you think ENFPs are like that?
Self-esteem for sure. I think because they fall in love with the self-image versus falling in love with the self. It's easy to love. I think it's easy to love what you want to be, and since you're conscious that's not who you really are to some extent, uh, it's easy. And maybe this is just for me personally because that's a personal struggle for me, but it's like it's very easy to degrade yourself rather than to fix yourself, and it's very easy to sit in the state of degradedness and try and move to a different state instead of put effort in to build one of your own. Um, and so that is just I think it's a mix of both because I think it's almost narcissistic to uh to avoid it to some extent, and it's definitely pessimistic and low self-esteem to that causes it.
Yeah. Some of the knows of ENFPs is like a lot of their like beliefs are just very convenient rationalizations. Even the way that they see like spirituality, like all of these things are just happening to me and I'm at a lack of the cause. Like I think that's the same reason that ENFPs have trouble with boxes. You know, ENFPs, they all say, like, I don't really think I'm an ENFP because some days I'm introverted and some days I'm extroverted, and you can't just put me in this box and you can't just tell me I'm this. And it makes it to where there's like you're like, bro, there's this thing happening in front of you. Somebody's turning on the light switch. And they're like, well, just because they flip it and it turns on doesn't mean that it's bright or some shit like that. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you so hesitant to admit like this obvious thing that wouldn't be an imposition on you if you understood it? And they project this like disdain they have with the concept of boxes into their worldview. So it's like, look, as a creative person, I understand having a trouble with boxes. And you know, Max is INFP. He has trouble with boxes.
Yeah.
I think ENFPs have more trouble with this concept of boxes than any other type, and they're so scared of the concept of boxes that the fear is like irrational at this point. Do y'all see this here too?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Get all
You already
over the
pointed out
place.
the situation.
Shay, what's up with the boxes thing, man? Why do you hate boxes? They're just cute little
Bro,
brown
let me
things that you put stuff in.
no, man. No, let me tell you, man. As a person who works for the post office, seeing boxes all day really makes you hate them. Um, no, but in actuality, I think people don't. Uh, well, ENFPs are in love with the self-image, right? So people in love with the self-image who really don't understand the self don't want anyone else to understand the self before they do. It comes off as the meaning almost. I don't know why we take it that way, but it's like how many times have you heard an ENFP like I don't act like that or you don't know me or like like we just really don't want to
Yeah.
because it's like the idea we've built in ourselves. I think one so I think this is one thing. It's not the big thing, but it's definitely there. Is many people are just comfortable with the idea they've built of themselves versus who they actually are, and for people to uh to say that they know more of who they actually are is just not cool to them. So that's one. Um, but two, uh, ENFPs, since they shift passion so much, or states, or whatever we wish to call it, uh, they don't feel congruent to being held down. They think they're so multifaceted in their brain that to limit them is insulting.
Yeah. One thing I think, thing I think as to why ENFPs would hate boxes is because the concept of like what they say boxes are really directions. Because you could say MBTI is a box, but when somebody says you're extroverted, in the language of MBTI, they're not saying that you're talking to people all the time. They're saying that you primarily operate in the world in an extroverted way, but that's on a spectrum, and you're not going to be concerned with other people at all times. Um, so they're not really like they're not really saying that you're just this. So they have this aversion to boxes on an irrational level. And the reason I think that is I think that patterns kill the game for them. ENFPs enjoy playing the game because they're more personable than thinking types. They're more personable than the NTPs. So as an ENTP, Shane, I the way that I tend to read people is I look at their patterns and I'm like, these are the things you tend to do. This is you. And through that, I notice the patterns quickly, and I feel as if I can understand people rather quickly. And the way that, as an ENFP, I've seen you understand people is you like to have conversations with people, sit down with them, learn all the facts about like their reality, listen to the things they're interested in, all this thing, and like it's a whole process that takes more of an extended time for you, and you enjoy that process. So I feel as if you did just start looking at things through patterns, it would kill your ability to sit down and do what you love, communicate with your community, and have personable experiences with them. Would you agree?
I would agree and disagree. I think it goes to that conversation that I was trying to have with you the other night, where it's like I think these experiences of trying to getting to know people and stuff isn't always the best way to build build relationships and to help others grow. One, it's super ENFP of me to like give advice and not take it. That's very ENFP.
Yeah.
But beyond that, relating to people and trying to understand people, although is a very good thing, can't be the only framework. So I don't know if patterns are necessarily bad. I think I would love to add patterns more. And maybe this is me. I don't think the average ENFP would work this. I think it would shatter a lot of them. But for me, I would love to add patterns to my work in communicating with others, but I wouldn't want to like lose what I already do. I'd want to find a good middle ground, but it would just be like I understand that like trying to figure out people's, especially as in like an evangelistic or just like in a hanging out people and they're going through problems, trying to figure out people's problems through the lens of like relating and being like, okay, I get that when I really probably don't fully get that because they may be saying something that I've never been through is just not always beneficial. But it's definitely like we I understand it more because it's real. And since I'm so caught up in states, it's like, oh, if you've existed in a state that I've been close to, then it's like, yeah, I can justify it.
Yeah.
And I would argue
It's,
some ENFPs would be permissing of it because, oh, it's okay, I've been in that state before, bro. Like just how they
oh
are.
yeah, yeah. I mean, ENFPs have like in some ways ENFPs pray to sympathy as if sympathy is like the best incentive to encourage other people. And I think that the way ENFPs pray to sympathy induces a sense of helplessness in themselves and others around them. Be unhelpful. Um, but speaking on that, you talked about being in an evangelist setting. Let's talk about ENFPs and activism. We all know
Yes.
ENFPs love giving advice. We all know ENFPs are the first to be activists, to be sharing like posts on their Instagram that say, if you think that this Roe v. Wade thing is okay, unfollow me. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm sick. I don't fuck with you. Go away. I'm not your friend. I don't want to talk to you if you believe in da da da. You're disgusting. Oh, non-ENFPs, my peanut gallery. Talk to me about these fucking ENFPs and their activism.
Oh Lord, the ex that I had, she was also like the activist. Really, the only activist type that I've well, I mean, I that is in my life that has been an ENFP, but like you see them all over the fucking place. The
Facebook.
Yeah,
It'd be on
it's everywhere.
Facebook. Some
Facebook,
actors.
Instagram, yeah,
They
Twitter.
could do it. It's not like a bad thing. It's just
So
noticeable.
unbelievably annoying.
Why do they like it so much, Lance?
I don't know why they like it. I don't got any input into that. I can't see through that path.
What the fuck is wrong with them? Okay.
I think it's stimulating to them. I really think that's the only reason they like it, is it's like
I mean, think about it.
stimulation.
Activism tends to just be another like movement or subculture that people would probably identify with. So they probably just attribute a lot of these to their self-image,
Yeah, and I
and
think they're just
because they,
addicted to the outrage.
yeah, it is stimulating to be outraged, but it's like, I mean, I would argue that's probably what it is. It's like the passion is so real in the moment, and it's like it's easier to better to feel something in the moment than not congruent to anything. So if there's an outrage to be felt, feel it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
ENFPs.
Good old ENFPs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the reason why I'm so hesitant towards it is I feel as if the motivation for ENFPs is not, for ENFPs and their activism, it's not purely this charitable aspect to them. It's hard for me to believe that these ENFPs could struggle so hard on being consistent. Like, most of my ENFP friends are musicians, and most of them don't even make a song a week and call themselves musicians. But they will be the first motherfuckers to sit with you in the studio, notice that you're feeling down on yourself in some area of music, and be like, hey man, you just gotta do da da da. Don't let them blow. Like, they'll be the first people to talk to you as if they're killing it. But in their own footprint of doing the thing, you don't see them engaging in it. You don't see them being consistent in it. Why is it so hard for ENFPs to resonate with their own fucking thing?
It's strange because it's like their self-image revolves around it. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the other thing is like I think the reason that they get off on it is it's one of the only times when ENFPs feel powerful because ENFPs do think about values. So this like philosophy of values and morality is something that they're cognizant of enough. They're cognizant enough of it to make a self-image about it. But yeah, bro, it's just why the fuck do they do that shit?
Why do they do
Yeah.
it?
Why do
So
we
they
do
like
it?
they make a self-image out of this shit, and then like they're like, you should be doing this. If you're doing this, I'm sick of you. You're a disgusting creature. You should be ashamed of yourself. And it's like, yo, do you not notice that like this is the only that's really the only time when they feel confident is when they're like being morally indignant on the internet. So I think a huge motivation is this like aspect of power and confidence, and honestly the shame, they get a high off of shaming people. ENFP activists live off of shaming people. They get so much energy from shaming people, but in their day-to-day life they're so boggled down by shame. What's up with that? Shame? What's up with the shame?
I don't know. This is one that I don't know. I feel like ENFPs are a lot more simple sometimes. I shouldn't say that because we're gonna get a bunch of hate comments. I'm not that simple. Um, are a lot more simple. I feel like a lot of it is just like uh, and maybe it's like this is probably the outside MBTI in me of just like the emptiness of filling the hole in self and just filling it with things. So like the shame in it of itself is probably just like there from jump, to be honest. And it's just like just not knowing how to be combated. Like, I don't know. They weird, bro. We weird people. We weird folk in them. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just one thing. Like the problem is so simple. We just minimize it. It's like, oh, motherfuckers are out here telling people what they should be doing, and you're not doing shit. It's so simple. But it's
I think we.
so real that it's like, what the fuck, bro? Like that's all I can explain to it is like, why? Why do they do that shit?
But I think it's because it's really weird to like I was saying earlier. I think this goes back to the text thing that my friends were saying, where it was like, if you miss me, just text me. And it's like I do, but it's just not how my brain functions. And it's like, yeah, that's probably an easy thing to build a habit out of, but ENFPs and almost I would some say some INFPs build such heavy, strong habits and strengths out of those like vibes that like uh how do I
Fuck
word it?
you. Fuck you.
Oh, is that the Milky Wookie?
This is happening right now.
Milk
This is totally
Yes.
happening on podcast. On podcast, Milky, you're on podcast. Say something to the fans.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Get the fuck out of here, bro. Anyway, moving on.
Special guest appearance. You have to put that in the title. Uh, uh, what was I even saying?
I don't know, bro. Milk ruins everything. Fuck this shit, bro. All right, let's talk about the next thing, bro. Let's start moving on because my fucking throat's starting to get a little. Anyways, so let's talk about ENFPs and relationships. That's like, hey, let me tell you, bro. Hey, I ain't feeling it with the ENFPs, bro. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's.
the whole clearing of
Hey,
throat, crazy.
hey, we about to get to you, bro. We about to get to you. Yes, Max.
Hmm.
I dated these ENFP hoes. What they like?
The
Barely.
highs are high, but the lows are low.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Max.
exactly.
Max
But
talked to me
I feel
about
like
it,
that
bro.
happens over time, though. Because like
Does
you were
it?
saying, like the rapid changes, I don't even see that. I just see it's over time and it's drastic
This
Mhm.
happens.
disaster.
Nah, for me, it was kind of exhausting dating an ENFP just because it's like the constant need to always be doing something and always be like constantly stimulated. Like, I don't know. It's very exhausting. So,
Yeah, it's like they have this fucking problem of just not being able to sit with themselves. Because whenever they're with themselves, it's so miserable for them to just be with themselves because they avoid themselves so much and substitute self with self concept. So they're sitting there with themselves, and their first reaction to be in there is like, "Oh my god, I do not want to be sitting with myself right now. I'm miserable. We need to go. We need to go do something." They're always like looking for this new impulsive activity. So it's like, Max, let's go smoke somewhere. Max, let's go get snacks. Max, let's watch this. Max,
yeah.
let's go to this.
And at
Max,
first it's
they just
like
cannot chill.
appealing. At first it's like appealing and it like I'm like, "Oh, I'm breaking out of my shell," but then it starts to get really exhausting and then it's like I don't know, over time it's just not as appealing as I thought it would be. You know.
Yeah. I mean, bro, this reminds me. I wanted to talk about like something specific about the fucking hedonism. It's always that high energy they get off of the impulse. For some reason, impulse allows them to be permissive to themselves about bad things. And like the humor that they attach to impulse allows themselves to be permissive. So they'll be sitting there doing something that is just like not only annoying, but it's just a wrong thing to do, and
And they'll
it's
just be like,
bringing down
"LOL, ha ha ha."
it's bringing down the morale of people around them. And they're just like, ah, I'm doing
They'll
something
acknowledge
destructive.
it, but
Ha.
then they
I'm being
don't
impulsive. Ha.
and they just
And
laugh
then,
it off and
yeah,
just treat
and
it like
then if
it's
you're
nothing.
like, if you tell them like, bro, this isn't funny, and you're sitting here like fucking up some shit that we put effort into creating, and it's seriously not cool, and we're not going to be permissive to it just because you're laughing, they'll get mad at you.
Yeah.
Calling them out. So it's like they'll sit there and like terrorize them. And I'm not saying they're out there like fucking like stabbing you or some shit. It's just some shit that's just over the line. It's not crazy, but it's over the line.
And
It's like you should not do that
yeah.
shit. Yeah, and then they're like, "Yeah, I'm doing this shit. That's like I'm crossing boundaries." And then you're like, "Okay, bro, it's not funny." And they're like, "Whatever, I don't care." And then they get mad at you and annoyed at you, and they'll like give you an attitude for calling them out. And then you'll like what they'll be is they'll be passive aggressive about it. You'll try to talk to them about the thing that they did. They'll still be mad about it, and you'll be like, "Why are you mad?" And then they'll be like, "Because I was just trying to have fun, and you started doing da da da." Like they'll make you feel like you're the person that's at the wrong for you not letting them get away with crossing a boundary.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to keep bringing her up, but my ex, it was like you would bring up something that like that is clearly immoral that she's doing, and then it's just like, LOL, haha, I know, blah 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 blah, and then like just trying to, they acknowledge it and then laugh it off.
Have this disassociation
Oh,
with
it's funny.
their own personal morality. Like they're like sitting on their phone and they're seeing some shit that they deem immoral. Like if they're a vegan, they're watching some people fucking throw fucking pickaxes at cows or some shit, and they're like, "This is terrible. They should be ashamed for this."
I feel like
And then they'll like steal $20 from their friends, and you'll be like, "Yo, that's not funny. You shouldn't do that." And they'll be like, "I know it's so bad." It's like, what? Like, what is that dissociation you have with
yeah,
your own morality?
that you're just like, LOL, ha ha ha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
feel like
like
this has
they
become the ENFP. Like we're just shit talking ENFPs.
fuck them.
No,
Fuck
because I
'em.
really do enjoy my ENFP homies. Like
Not me just sitting here.
Oh, but that's the thing is like they're fun, and we'll wrap this up with a positive connotation about them. They're fun, but it's all this rationalization because I think, Max, when an ENFP is crossing a boundary like that, do you think ENFPs are like fucking sociopathic, or do you just think they are like they're being willfully blind to something immoral they're doing?
willfully blind to something immoral they're doing. I don't think it's like a sociopathic, like evil thing. No.
Yeah, they're
I
not
think they're
getting
just
off of
yeah.
this.
I think that they're just willfully blind to it, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like that either over time will get worse or better with that ENFP, specific ENFP, because I feel like that's something that could be worked on. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of them don't have the willingness to even recognize that as an
Well,
issue.
a lot of it comes from them just lacking vitality, from them just operating in a low energy day to day. So they can't just be with themselves. They have to do some impulsive shit. Rather that be like go fucking do some shit, or it's like just sitting there like fucking with you. They can't just sit with themselves. And if everybody is just chilling, they'll be like, I'm bored. Like they fucking like I don't know if your girl did this, but I definitely met a Vietnamese that are like, I'm bored. I'm bored. And it's like, why is like everything is understimulating to you?
Yeah.
It's because you are lacking a you.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
I think even when they do want to sit with themselves, is they sit with the. This might just be, and like I do this, is they sit with the self image of themselves. And so uh, like if I'm sad, uh, I'm gonna go listen to a brand that I identify with. So like, y'all know I like rap music and stuff a lot, but it's like I'm gonna go find the sad hip hop head in me because that's what I choose to identify with in that moment. But it's like I only can do that because I don't know who the self is, and so it's like I just have to find a brand to sit with. So yeah, I think it's almost a preference to be stimulated by images, brands, and ideas rather than it is with yourself, um, which just sucks. So I'm working on it, but we'll see.
fucking ENFP fucking hate on this pod is crazy, bro. Lance, you were
He's working on it.
I think you were hinting at something earlier around ENFPs and relationships. Do you think that like it's almost inevitable that the glee that ENFPs feel initially from a relationship is going to wane, and ENFPs are going to be like, I'm just not feeling the relationship anymore? Because I would think so. What would you say?
Um, I mean, just from again experience, I don't know. I don't like know how to put it into terms, but that's how it's gone. So I can definitely say, like, in my experience, that's true. I don't want to say that for all of them, though, because that's unfair. I feel like,
Yeah.
because it's not
Nah.
like I dated a bunch of them, you know.
Fuck them. Fuck them, bro. Say that.
I will say
I
from
I
my
don't wanna, I don't
last,
want to be, I don't want to
I,
be
I wanted
rude.
to, I wanted to say from my last relationship, and I've recently kind of like gotten back in contact with my ex, like we're becoming homies again and stuff like that. But uh, I feel like such a jerk for a lot of it now because there was my ex is an INFJ, and there were so many times where like she was just tired, wouldn't delay in bed, and I had mad FOMO, and just like he didn't see, he was like, "No, I gotta go out," and I like hold that against her to some extent of just being like, "No, I can't sit in the bed. Like we gotta go. Like I can't be in this building." And I just go out and like
That's so fucked up.
it's really bad. It'd be like 10 o'clock at night, and I'd be like, all right, the homies are out drinking or something like that. So I'm just gonna go kick it with the crows. I'll see you in like 2 hours, and I'll be back. Like, which is so stupid. Um, and it's like coming to think, like I was telling her the other day, and I was like, we were like reconnecting, like, hey, I'm sorry for all the bad stuff I did as like a boyfriend. Like I wasn't a good boyfriend. And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, how much time I just like ditched you? Yo, I was like.
Oh, ENFPs trivialize relationships. Why the fuck have so many ENFPs dead ass asked me the question, how do I manifest a relationship? Like what? Why is it like relationships are just like this fun new thing? I'm trying like I want a boyfriend. Like it's like this like fun new thing. Like they trivialize the fuck out of it, bro. Like y'all can't hear me shaking my head right now. All
They
right,
do. They
bro.
do want one. They do want one.
Do be fucking wanting one bad, and they really date just to date. Like they'll literally say like they'll say I'm looking for a boyfriend. I'm talking to these people. Da, da, da. It's like I just feel it questionable that you would be seeking that out rather than just knowing what type of person is healthy for you and allowing that to flourish. And like, being so fanatic about the prospect of it also ties with them lacking a self. So honestly, if we like wrap this up, bro, like if we were like, what do they do? ENFPs need self-esteem. If ENFPs is real had like a sense of self that they weren't running away from and had identified, a lot of these problems go away.
I would argue almost all of them. I would argue like all of these. The higher you value yourself, um, the better it is to. I think I've waned as a person who like I hate to keep bringing it up like as a Christian. I do think there's something of like self value and love that I see in that more than others, and so I still do a lot of these ENFP esque things. But I feel this. I don't want to toot my own horn or whatever and say I'm better because I don't know if I've really made any other progress besides
No
that.
shade.
No, I just really don't know if I've made any other
Better
progress
than them.
besides
Say
that.
it. Say it with
No,
your
it's not.
chest.
Yeah, it's not that at all. But it's like, um, but it really like I don't think self awareness is progress in my personal opinion. But you can't have progress without self awareness, and I would argue it's gonna sound so hedonist or so like just narcissistic. Like I feel more self aware than the average ENFP. It's so bad. It's so bad. Now we're gonna get a bunch of comments like, "How dare he say he only? I'm self-aware. I know who I am." Um. Uh. But I think that like that self-care has already dwindled some of my problems to some extent. The conviction of when I participate in things I deem to be like sinful, um, is arguably better than the permissiveness other ENFPs give themselves when they go against their own moral standard. Like it's better to feel the conviction to just than to be permissive.
Yeah. I want to say this too on ENFP activism. There ain't no way a motherfucker could be sitting around saying all these people are bad and listen to this disgusting. Like you can't be doing that so much, talking about the disgusting nature of other people and not be day to day curating yourself to affect other people the best way you possibly can. So if you are that morally indignant, I would say it's wrong to be that morally indignant and it's not that helpful. But if you are that morally indignant, then you better also be really proactive in curating the best version of yourself. That's all I'm gonna say. But you know what, bro? On them. We put our pants down. We fucking shitted on them. You know what I'm saying? We pissed on
Yeah,
them. We stirred them up. We put some
we
lemon
did.
Dry and
pepper.
fat dumb.
We ate them. We
We
made
gave
an
him. We gave
ENFP
him. No,
soup with our shit and our
no, we
piss
did.
and some lemon pepper. We took a couple bites.
That is disgusting.
We took a couple bites. We gave it out to the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying, to the homeless people. We let them eat the ENFPs, and we did them a little dirty. Let's do them a little clean with it. Let's lift them up a little bit. Let's talk about healthy ENFPs and what a healthy ENFP would look like. Motherfucking peanut gallery. My boy Lance, bro, you been my boy since day motherfucking one, bro. Since I was in diapers, bro. Since I was in diapers, you been around there. You know you real. Max, you my motherfucking boy, bro. You been around since I was a sperm cell, Max. You been in this
Yeah.
bitch for a while. You a real
Yeah.
one, man. So keep it real with me right now. All to tell me, break it down for me. Break down the science, the math, and the fucking physics for me. How would an ENFP become healthy? What would an ENFP, healthy ENFP, look like? Tell me. Let me know.
Well, they gotta recognize that their hedonism is an issue as number one, and then be willing to work on said issue. But yeah, that's what I would say. Like generally speaking, what they need to do.
Um, I would just think they would need to take a more outside view that can be applicable to pretty much everybody. But would help in the situation for sure. And I feel like they are prone to being against that. Like my type might be, I guess.
Just not self-aware. So Lance's advice to y'all is that y'all just can't do it. Y'all are incapable.
Y'all are doomed to fail.
He being blunt. That's his opinion.
Yeah.
I would say, in how the ENFP, I think ENFPs have trouble being honest with themselves about how emotional they are. They feel emotional resistance, they feel weak, and they run from it. And then them not confronting that emotional resistance makes it to where there's no stability in any area of their life. So I would say, ENFPs, I know you emotional, and I know the initial resistance of things. You feel it so deeply, but sit with that shit. Sit with that and be honest about it. And after you are honest about it, identify your issues and tell yourself that these grandiose fantasies are not true, but the things that you want to be true because you're hedonistic in nature. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person. I'm hedonistic in nature. I don't think I'm a bad person, but you are hedonistic and you do move towards pleasure. So a lot of your belief systems are in place because they're convenient for the pleasure that you consciously and unconsciously seek. So confront that. And then after you confront that, be honest about what you need to do. Tell yourself, I don't need a lifelong burst of energy. I just need to be consistent in things. I don't need to feel an overwhelming sense of passion about something all the time in order to be passionate about something. But passion is more nuanced than that. And I resonate with the principle of the thing I want to do. And I'm going to keep that principle with me and I'm going to serve it at all times. The same way, Shane, you're a Christian, the same way you do with God. Some moments the passion wanes for him. There's some moments where you're like, God, yes. And then there's some moments where you're like, God, why? But no matter what, you serve God because you stay to the principle. In the same way, ENFPs have to realize the principles of things to be important and decide to abide by them. ENFPs also have to first work towards themselves and then others, and they have to be very serious about working towards themselves. And they have to realize this part of them that wants to give advice isn't just because they're charitable and it isn't just because they're a good person, but it allows them to solve problems without having to go through the difficulty of solving their own. So be honest with it. Yes, there is a charitable aspect of you. It's not that all of you is this negative person. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's not all charitable. So be honest with that. Have integrity. And I think an ENFP a healthy ENFP, I think they would look like the shit. Because somebody who is that creative and that emotional, but is also consistent, is somebody that can understand a wide variation of perspectives. And that's somebody that can make others around them comfortable. And you wouldn't have to do it with having a self-image of being the person who gives advice. You would do it just by being yourself. You can do it. Shane, what do you think a healthy ENFP would look like?
The healthy ENFP is the person who has built meaningful habits. I don't want to dish on astrology and stuff like that again because I think we already pretty much did a
Fuck
lot of
it.
that. No. But I wanna say that I think a lot of times we quote unquote build these ideas of manifestation. We build these. The best way I can view it is we say these positive affirmations, and one, it's already difficult enough to build a habit out of them because we don't feel congruent to it. And two, when we do make it a habit, it almost becomes meaningless because the words don't feel true to us anymore. And so the idea of building meaningful habits is build things that come natural, make them come natural, but make sure that even in the moments where you don't feel congruent to them, you're still enjoying them. These habits will grow you. These habits will change you. Um, the only way we see real progression is by just naturally doing it. And if we don't build these habits, then we're never going to feel congruent. So I think the healthy ENFP is the ENFP is uh, made a habit for himself that is something he deems to be meaningful.
Why's it
Uh,
got to be a he?
something they've deemed to be meaningful. Uh, they, thems, and everyone's included. Um, but yeah, that's I think habits is what's going to make the ENFP grow. It's something I'm working on right now. It's very difficult because you don't feel like uh doing it. And yeah, make sure they're meaningful, but make sure they're not goals. You're not meeting goals. You're just doing what you do. This is just something you do now.
You know what?
That
You know
doesn't
what,
kill the meaning of it.
Shade? I feel
Hmm.
like as an ENFP, Christianity helps you because a lot of ENFPs actually hate Christianity and they say, "Why would I live my life by these boxes? You know, why does everything have to be so stringent? Why do I have to live life exactly how God wants?" But you know what,
I
Shane?
think that's the fault of the ENFP. That like, at least for like a Christian view, is like Christianity to me is one of the most emotional things in the world, and like the simple point of it is just to grow in God's love. Like God is love. It's a
God's not
triune God
finished.
that loves Himself. But God is a triune God that is a community of love who has created us to join in on that love. And I feel like ENFPs, their issue with religions and ideas like that is just because they don't want to be boxed in, but they have no problem being boxed in relationships because they're emotional enough to be congruent to them. So it's just like stop, like get your panties out of bunch, bro. Just go learn about Jesus.
Damn. Yeah. You know, shit, I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, you're on this podcast of people who are just shitting on ENFPs. How do you deal with that as an ENFP? Answer them, Shane. How do you deal with that? How do you just sit here and listen to a shit on you, Shane?
I understand that I've been these things. Like I've been hedonistic. I became, this is why I said the self-awareness thing. I'm self-aware of my flaws. I'm self-aware that I've built a self-image and not myself. And uh, although my I'll tell you what, here's the difference between me and a lot of other ENFPs. I am definitely, my therapist says I have anxiety and depression. But I don't let my therapist telling me I have anxiety and depression stop the growth that I could have. It doesn't become a new identity feature of me. It becomes an aspect that I wish to grow in understanding and grow in minimizing. So it's just growth. Like I don't know why ENFPs want to sit in these. It's not that we want to sit in these states so bad. We just feel how real they are, and we don't want to
Learn
move.
helplessness.
Yeah, and it's just like, bro, we are so powerful. Like we exist so much in our heart because we're so emotional, and it's like I don't think we understand how powerful the heart and mind is. So
Y'all them boys. Y'all them boys. Look, we're going to wrap it up. And next episode, episode 11, is going to be about Trisha Paytas.
Yes.
Let's go.
The big one.
Before we get to that, Axe,
Yes.
somebody's been ducking the show. Somebody
Oh,
by the
I think
name
we
of
know.
MIA.
Miss
Mia
Cap,
is
Axe,
Cap.
call her out. Call
Mia
her
is
out, Max.
fucking Cap. Where's Mia been? She's not even been
I
on the
don't know.
pod. Like she's been on what, 2 episodes?
Yeah.
I mean, all I'm gonna say is I'm gonna let you know, Meester.
Mia's fucking Cap.
Uh, you need to know the Trisha Paytas one is your idea, so come through, get in here, get
Yeah,
involved.
come on.
I
The
get why your
fan.
name
Think of the
is. I get why
fans.
your
If
name
not,
is
think about
Mia
us. Think about the
Pizza.
fans.
I get why your name is Mia Pizza because you're a piece of shit if you don't do the next pod,
Whoa.
Mia. I'm tired of it. I'm fucking done with it, Mia. You know, you've been sitting here typing all this shit about how you're gonna confront Max and call him out.
What did I do?
Max, you know what you did.
What did I do to
Um,
Mia?
And you're gonna settle this Max beef live on air. Let's settle this shit.
I'll settle
Mia.
it.
here
I don't even
for
know
it.
what we're beefing over. I mean,
I'm ducking Max.
yeah.
You know what, Max? Before we end the podcast, whip it out.
No, that's not happening. Not this episode. We're gonna get taken off of YouTube.
Whip it out, Max.
They're gonna take
That's
us
for the
down.
that's for the
Nobody-
exclusive Pornhub episode
Zulu will
that'll be
not be
coming later this year.
Y'all want me to put my ball sack to the mic for the last, little second here?
We're saying goodbye now. Thank you guys so
All
much
right,
for watching the
everybody.
podcast.
Thank you for watching episode 10. Subscribe to Shane's OnlyFans
I don't
in the
have
That boy
one.
tough.
description of
That
this
boy tough.
video.
Definitely
We
don't
will
have
see
one.
you on the flip side.